I know y'all have seen the parties on the internet and it's annoying. Let's get into the first point. So the first horror of hosting on Airbnb is that one bad guest out of all the guests you get can ruin your life, and let me tell you why. So let's say that out of all the freaking guests you host, one of them decides to smoke. Let's say that you have checkout at 11 a.m. and your check-in is at 4 p.m. If your house smells like smoke, you have to figure out how to clean it, do all the stuff to get it ready for the next person, and get the smoke smell out. Sometimes it is not realistic, especially when you have a lot of units, because it's like you gotta like get ready. You have to go clean other units too. You can't spend the entire 4 or 5 hours during the turnover period cleaning that unit. So what happens is you might have to cancel on your next guest if it's a back-to-back, which means you have a loss of income. Then that leads to you not being able to pay your bills, and then that leads you getting kicked out by your landlord and all that other stuff. And it's just like a whole lot of, but there are ways to avoid this. What you need to do is buy your butt an Ozone machine off of Amazon. They have saved my life, and let me tell you why. So Ozone machines are these machines that big car rental companies use to get like nasty smells out their cars before their next guest. And basically the way it works is you put on the machine, you put the machine on for a certain amount of time, and then you close all the windows, close all the doors, and just kind of let this little chlorine smell get into the air. That's kind of what an Ozone machine does, and it like oozes this chlorine smell into the air. It smells like fresh pool water, to be honest with you. But the thing is, sometimes you have to put it on for a little while. It might have to be 1 hour, sometimes it's 3. It just depends on how bad the smoke smell is. So the second point, which is kind of what I was just talking about, is those little sneaky that sneak into your units through Airbnb and host freaking parties. I know y'all have seen the parties on the internet and it's annoying because we have to deal with that. But just like the last four, there are ways to avoid this if you are a host or if you're thinking about hosting. Let me tell you something. All those little sneaky itches, they all have a couple of things in common. Number one, those kind of people on their Airbnb profile usually don't even have any reviews. Number two, if they have reviews, at least one of them is a negative review. And sorry if I'm looking down, I have notes on my phone, okay? Number three, they're usually new to the platform. If today is May 2022, or yeah, if it's May 2022, they just joined in May 2022. And the fourth thing, although there could be many others, the fourth thing, the biggest point is that usually they book for like 1 or 2 nights and they be like, oh yeah, I'm coming into town to see family, and then they host a party. It's just so annoying. But there are a couple of ways to avoid this, like I said, so let's talk about them. So a lot of people don't know this, but with Airbnb, you can set up your account to accept specific people and to deny specific people automatically. So Airbnb does have instant book, which means people can go to your profile and they don't have to wait for you to approve their stay or to book your property. So what I recommend you do is set your account so that people who have 0 reviews or any negative reviews under 5 stars in the past, set it so that they can't book your property. Basically, you go on your back end on Airbnb and there's a section that says like, I don't even know what it says. It says it on the screen, and then you scroll down to the requirements. I think it's called booking requirements, and just make sure that that box is checked. You also want to set it so that people who have unverified accounts cannot book. It's like in the same little box right there on the screen. But basically, long story short, you want it so that they cannot book your property, because Airbnb actually uses a third party to verify people's identities and like their backgrounds. They do many background checks and stuff like that. So if anything comes up on that person, Airbnb automatically denies them and they can't book your property. Now, some of them try to get through the cracks and they'll like request a booking instead. But what my husband and I do is we go to their, if it says trip requested, like they requested to book, we go to their profile and say, okay, what was wrong? Usually A, they don't have reviews, B, they have negative reviews, or C, they weren't verified. So trust me, it works. And I really do believe like we don't have as many problems as most hosts. I would say we have a smoker every 8 to 10 months. I kid you not. The person who smoked yesterday was that one person, which is so crazy. And then the last thing you can do is you can set your listings to have like a minimum booking, like minimum nights to book. So for example, for all of our properties, we have minimum 2 nights that people have to book. Some of them 3, some of them we have 1, but it's like the properties that we know aren't having the parties. Like there's just like some small properties that are just not gonna have parties, but for the other ones, 2-night minimum. Okay, so back to the horrors though. Let's talk about the third horror of hosting on Airbnb. And that third horror is you just randomly stop getting bookings right when bills are due. It's always when bills are due that this kind of stuff happens, because it has happened to us before. And it's like, it feels like there's nothing you can do about it, but I promise you there are. Okay, so let's talk about how to avoid it. If you are dealing with this right now, then I would like write down this stuff, but also go ahead and call Airbnb and see if there's anything that they see on their end that's happening or whatever the case may be, to see like, okay, did my bookings drop dropped for this specific reason, is because I did this, can you just let us know why? Sometimes they're able to tell you, sometimes they're not. If they're not, then follow these steps. Number one, you need to go to your account settings on Airbnb, professional tools. I'm showing you on screen right now though. And then you're gonna turn that on. You're gonna turn on your professional tools. Once you turn on your professional tools, you're gonna go to your insights. Under your Airbnb insights, you're able to see views, okay? So you can see the views on each unit and stuff like that. And the reason that's helpful is because if you see that your views have like drastically dropped recently, like say it dropped to 0, it could be because you're like shadow banned on the app or something, which means that basically Airbnb is just not showing your account at all. But if this does happen, then you still need to call Airbnb and see what's going on. You need to say, okay, like I was getting 300 bookings a month, now I'm getting 0. What the heck is happening? Please let me know. Here's something else you can do, but this trick is only gonna work if you have professional photos. If you don't have professional photos, I promise you this is not gonna help. It might, but it's probably not gonna help. Look back at your reviews or your conversations with your guests and see why people say they come to your town. Is it because the property was nice and they just booked it because it was nice? Is it because you have a nice little balcony for them? Is it because you have a photo wall that they're able to take pictures in front of? Whatever that unique thing is that people are coming to your property for, put that as your first photo on your listing, okay? So that people looking for the exact same experience can go to your listing and know that they can book with you. The next thing you can do is lower your prices by $5 for like, I would say 24 hours, and then $10 for another 24 hours, and then 15, and keep going and going and going until you get booked. The reason you want to do that is because you want to make sure that you're not like overpricing your property in your area, okay? So for us, what we like to do is if we notice that for one of our listings it just stops getting booked randomly, then we go to the pricing to say, okay, we have a dynamic pricing software we use, which is Price Labs, and basically it determines how much we should be pricing our units at. But if it randomly just, you know, is being a little funky and the prices are high, we just go in and manually change the prices so that they can be like decent prices where people want to book the property. And that's really important. Now, if you are dealing with like slow season, which is also a horror of Airbnb, slow season is the worst thing ever, especially when you got bills to pay. Then if you are only getting booked on weekends and you're booked up for the next 2 months on the weekends and not on the weekdays, you're overpricing your weekends. So your weekends are too dang cheap and your weekdays are too expensive. I can get those words right. And then finally, if you still need help and you're like, okay, Kiera, I did all those things, but I still need some help, and then I created this thing called the drip framework, and it helped a lot of my clients get through the panoramic, if you know what I'm talking about. It helped a lot of them get through it because it's basically a framework on, you know, your description, your title, your reviews, your ratings, your photos, like all that stuff. Now, if you're thinking about hosting or you're already hosting, you don't want this to happen to you, or you need those tips readily available if they do, you need to subscribe, because you need to be able to come back to this channel and come back to this video to watch this video through and through to get those tips so you can get booked, okay? It's such a horror to just not get booked. It's honestly like a nightmare in my opinion. It's really scary and sad when you don't get booked. But I hope these tips helped you. And like I always say, take back your shoes and relax your feet, because #you're home, all right? I'll talk to y'all in the next video. Bye.